if anybody knows of a Tom from North, at least in 2006 or 2005, they were from North Carolina. And I want to say they might have been from Charlotte.
Who was the name?
Tom and Katie, I think. And they walked with me. They were part of my Camino family in 2005 or 2006.
Oh.
But Tom Bohr.
Does he have a wife named Katie?
Yes. Yeah. They live in Chicago now.
Oh my God.
In fact, Vince, I think Tom's supposed to be on this Zoom meeting with us, Tanya.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he did sign
I
up.
think he signed up. I mean, he signed up. So,
Oh my God.
Tom, if you're out there, please identify yourself and come to the head of the class.
They were the most lovely couple. I think they were the first. I didn't meet them until like halfway through of my Camino. And they were my first American couple that I met. In 2000, did you know if they walked in 2005 or 2006?
That'd probably be about right.
Does that sound right?
Yeah. Probably sounds
Yeah,
right.
It was a couple, and they were, yep.
Do you have
Well,
any?
we'll see if they come on. Hopefully they'll join us.
So I've been wanting to catch. I never got their address or contact information. So I haven't been able to connect with them since then. And
Well,
they-
Wow.
Well, we can get you their address.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
Nancy from Charlotte and Vince are both friends of
Well,
Tom.
Mhm.
So yeah, that should not be a
Hang on a
problem.
minute.
Get an address for you. We could put that in the chat room. Maybe Nancy, if you wouldn't mind doing that, if you've got their address.
Okay.
And everyone, we're waiting we'll wait for a couple minutes as people join us. I've got 4 p.m. Eastern, straight up 4:01 right now. We'll give it a minute or two,
Okay.
and then we'll fire it up.
Yeah, we're still getting, there's Tom Bohr, he just signed in.
Oh,
Or
hey,
okay.
Hey, Nancy.
do you see him, Tanya?
Hey, Kitty. Tanya wants your address.
Oh my God. Look at,
Oh man.
oh my God. I am just, Tom and Katie. You remember, I'm sure you don't remember me, or do you remember me?
I don't.
You don't.
No, I don't.
We stayed together in Granion and in Castro Harris.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. Your hair is different. Your hair's different.
It's
Isn't it?
older.
Everybody's hair is different.
Hey,
We have hair.
Francis
Yeah.
looks the same.
Yeah, yes, those who have hair.
Really?
Yeah. God, I would love to get your addresses, please, if I could send a letter.
Yeah.
Because I have
Kitty,
pictures.
put it in the chat for her.
Yeah, you can do a
Yeah, I'll
private,
put it in the chat.
I was just getting ready to do that, and then you showed up. So
you can do
I'll
a
let you-
private message in the chat, private message in the chat.
Yeah, I can connect with you too.
That's
I haven't
Tanya, your day's been made and we haven't even started yet.
seen them.
A little Camino magic right here on Zoom, huh?
Amen. Amen. Right there. Hello, Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Are you talking to Bob and Linda?
I'm sorry, we're talking to Linda Boozer. Linda is one of our coordinators who has the unfortunate experience of being in Hawaii.
Oh,
Rough.
As we speak.
bad.
It's
Yeah,
rough,
gotta
folks.
do it.
Yeah, she had to get up this morning.
Oh,
Great to be
sorry, I
here.
accidentally sent it to everybody. That's okay.
Oh, Linda, what island were you on in Hawaii?
I'm on the Big Island.
Okay, my daughter lives on Maui.
Oh, wow.
So,
It's
How was
all
the
beautiful.
trip
It's
over?
all beautiful and wonderful.
well, yes. How are the flights over there now?
At least when I came, which was 2 months ago, it was fabulous. It was a very positive experience.
Okay, yeah, I want to go. I've been looking at flights.
Well, listen, I've got 403, but who's counting? why don't we go ahead and start, and I'll turn it over to John Kennedy, one of our fellow coordinators, and then we'll go from there.
Hey, everybody, welcome, and thank you for joining this Zoom meeting. We're very enthused about it. We'd like to give a special call out to our Central Iowa and Colorado Front Range chapters who are, co-hosting this with us. So we appreciate all the effort to pull this together. Couple housekeeping issues. Please keep your microphones on mute until you want to speak, except for our speaker, of course. And then if you have questions that you'd like to ask, please submit them to the chat room. You should know how to do that. It's down by your bottom taskbar. There's something that says chat. You click on that, type in your question. We have a person that'll be monitoring those questions. And then we'll take a pause when the time is right so that we can answer some of those, but keep the flow of the presentation going, by trying to manage the questions as they come forward. If you'd like to, it would be helpful and kind of fun if everybody could put their chapter name or their chapter location next to their name. And you do that by clicking on your name and then adding something to it. So I did that. You can see mine says John Kennedy - Charlotte. We appreciate that. And and then also we will be recording this presentation. So it'll be stored out on the American Pilgrims site, and you'll be able to access it as well as the chat room where the additional questions will be. So with that, let's get started. I'm going to turn it over to Mike Gardner, who will be facilitating the conversation with Tanya Valdes. Tanya is joined with her friend Jessica. And we're very just honored that you'll join us, Tanya and Jessica. Tanya, as you know, has a long association with the Camino, with Iowa, as well as Colorado Front Range. She's been to the gathering. And then she also worked as a hospitalero several times at the Albergue in Albriate, Portugal. And Mike Gardner, as well as his wife, Barbara Gardner, also worked at Albriate. So a lot of connections here, as the Camino always does for us. And it'll be interesting to hear. I'm excited, enthused to hear about how Tanya had the courage, really, to just pick it up and move to Spain and followed her dream. So,
Yeah.
So with that, Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, John. And as things always happen here, the beauty of technology, my other coordinators are going to have to figure out who's going to do the read the chat questions, because I got a message from Marti and said she cannot get on due to the bandwidth wherever she is. So if you, John, you got it? Okay.
I got it.
No problem. Thank you so much. Well, certainly we welcome Tanya, you and Jessica. And why don't you right away just introduce Jessica so we know who she is and maybe how you met her and how she has helped you, and then we'll jump in.
Well, I couldn't have done this without her. She has been phenomenal, and she's been my translator. She knows everything, if not more than what happened.
Tanya, you might want to speak up just a little bit. I'm having, or maybe turn the volume up. You're just having a little bit of a difficulty hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
I think
Yeah.
that's better. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I couldn't have done this without Jessica. She's been my wing woman, and she has been phenomenal. She's been my translator. She's done a lot of work. I'm following up on stuff, and no, she's been amazing. So without her, La Cala wouldn't have happened.
Wow.
So-
Just a little slower.
But she has just as much heart and passion for this project as I do right now.
Well, that's great. And Jessica, we welcome you. We welcome you. And thank you for all the support. I do want to give a shout out to Dan Mullins, because Dan did a wonderful interview last year, Tanya. I forget what month it was, but if you do get a chance to listen to that, it's what my Camino podcast, you can go out there and listen to it. It's a wonderful interview. And thank you, Dan, for that. Also, Jessica, during that interview, I don't know if you've had a chance to go back and listen to it or not, but Tanya really did recognize you in depth in terms of all the contributions that you made to help make this happen. So I just want you to know that it's definitely out there in the universe what your contributions have been. So thank you very much. Also, Tanya, thank you for the bio that you took the time to send me, like back in March. It's been so long ago. I see you have a puzzled look, like you spent like a lot of time, and it was very helpful. I read back through it, so thank you for all that. So I wanted to say that we have a lot of veterans, but we also do have some new people that have not walked before. So a lot of what we'll be talking about is something that you can gain a lot from Tanya's experience in terms of walking. She's walked 4.5 Caminos, and we're gonna drill down a little bit on some things in terms of what she thinks we should be doing as chapters, in terms of we're the front line, where most people connect with the Camino, and what can we do to better support people and better prepare people, if you will. So the people that have not walked or that have been derailed, hang in there. The time will come when you'll be able to walk. So it was mentioned about the connections. So I thought I would start and just say the connection for Charlotte, explain that quickly. And then Tanya, if you can explain your Iowa connection and then the Colorado Front Range connection. And I think that will put this into context for people in terms of how you know us, if you will. So basically, in
letting you know if you wanted to.
The verdict.
Could somebody go on mute there? I think we're getting some rollover. But anyway, in 2016, I had wanted to walk the Portuguese Camino starting in Lisbon. And I was thinking about it as far back as 2015. And a woman that myself and our 2 adult daughters met on the Camino in 2013, her name is Brooke McNamara, is a friend of Rui, okay? And we actually met Rui, literally, when you say we met somebody in passing, like he was on the Camino and we met him, he was going one way, we were going another. So I'm thinking, okay, I know Rui's Portuguese. I know he probably has a lot of experience. I'm gonna contact my friend and get Rui's contact information, which I did. And he communicates back to me, and this was sometime maybe late 2015. He comes back to me and says, hey, I can't really help you, but I've got the person that can. She has just finished this from Lisbon, and her name is Tanya Valdes. So Rui gave me her contact information. I got a hold of her. It was very helpful in terms of letting me know all about it, in terms of the different places. In fact, I don't know if you remember, but you actually mailed me some documents about the map of Lisbon and some other stuff, and I really appreciate that. So I let her know once I finished it. That worked out great. And then I decided that we would maybe do a hospitalero experience in Albergue. And I had heard along the way that she had actually been at Albergue. So we communicated again, and she let me know. And then Barbara, has already been mentioned, Barbara and I spent a week in Albergue doing hospitalero. So again, was very helpful in terms of letting me know about what her experience was with Albergue. So that's the connection to the Charlotte Camino. And there was another couple that from our group, John and Bridget Skida, that also volunteered at Albergue as a result of this connection, and spent a week there as well. So that's our connection. And maybe we talk about Iowa and Colorado.
I grew up in Iowa, was born in Wisconsin, grew up in Iowa, spent half of my lifetime in Iowa. So I am friends with, I haven't seen a lot of Iowans on here, but there's no way I can see everybody all at the same time. So there's Dawn is the chapter coordinator, and then also somebody who sits on the board is Jackie.
Arresting. Oh my goodness.
Are you guys, if you're friends? And then I have a special shout out to this lovely couple who's part of my Camino family, Tom and Katie. So excited to finally connect with you two, because I did not get, that's my biggest regret on my first Camino, was not getting everybody's name and addresses, because you think you're going to see them over and over again. But I don't remember, once we got beyond the Meseta, I don't remember seeing you. So we didn't get to see each other when we were in Santiago, I don't think.
I think we thought that we would find each other again, and I don't know if you went faster or we slowed down or what, but no. But we were very much a part of each other's Camino during that time. Absolutely, absolutely.
You helped me. You were very kind, and you helped me. I was looking for a charger, I think, for my camera, maybe, and you helped me with that. So that was, your Spanish was great, and I do remember. I have pictures of you too.
We have some of you too. We have some of you to share.
But I saw Ellie. Okay, so then I moved from Iowa to, there's Ellie. Hi, Ellie. I moved from Iowa to Colorado, and I spent the other half of my life in Colorado on the Western Slope in Dillon. And Ellie introduced me to a lady who lives here in Oia, of all things, who's from Germany. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Her name is Glivia, and she actually lives in.
I always forget her name, and she's a lovely lady. She was just
She
here.
actually lives in.
She stopped by.
She lives in Villa de Suso.
Right.
Just a little up the trail from you, not much.
So we were having coffee with her here at her balcony a week ago.
She stopped by to say hello, and it's the Camino world is such a small world, isn't it?
Yeah, please tell her hello the next time you see her.
I will. I asked about you when she was over. So
nice.
And fellow pilgrims, welcome, and thank you for being on.
So thank you for that, just kind of getting everyone up to speed in terms of the connection. So we will definitely talk about La Cala. Okay, so I want to make sure that we hit that. I think most of our people are very interested in what your current COVID situation is in Oia. And to the extent that you know, again, we're not asking you to speak on behalf of the Spanish government, obviously, but whatever it is, we would be interested in hearing that. And then, you know, maybe we could talk about what's it like, Tanya, to be an expat living in a foreign country in terms of.
Because Jessica is here, she loves to meet people, new people. She's very extroverted and she's very social. So she loves to meet foreigners, and we have a local group of expats that we kind of all hang out together, and we do things once in a while together. So there's 3 or 4 of us from the United States. There's couple from Ireland, 1 from Sweden,
2 from Sweden.
2 from Sweden, yeah. So it's a nice handful of a group.
And some Czech.
Yeah, a lady from the Czech and 1 lady from the UK.
So you already have your own, you have a group that you at that know, and that's just the way it evolved. So maybe we could talk about that. Yeah, for sure.
Jessica can hear accents really well, and she goes up, and that's how we met too. She walks up to me. She's not afraid to go up and say hello to a stranger.
We were having a bottle of wine. That's how.
We don't do that here.
No. Yeah, right. Yes, we understand. That's for sure.
I am a citizen. I am American and Spanish, and North American and Spanish. So when I came back from living in California many years and I moved here, I missed my friends from the US. So I'm all over the world generally, actually. So every time that I will hear somebody that it was an outsider or from with an accent, I will like literally, hey, where are you from? You sound like,
Right.
you know,
Very cool. Very cool.
The
So-
bar, the restaurant bar here is like Oya's little living room. So everybody, yeah, and pilgrims, including pilgrims, we would just walk by. I don't know if anybody remembers Casa Henriqueta's. It's a little bar with outdoor seating, and as people walk by, you say hello. And
Let's jump in. And how did you hear about the Camino? What got you interested in the Camino? What's the story?
well, it's I had cancer, stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I was going through chemo and was reading books. I love to read books anyway, but I read Paulo Coelho's Pilgrimage. And I really didn't think at the time that I read the book, I didn't think it really existed. I didn't think the Camino existed. But then when I read the foreword or the preface by Paulo Coelho, it was a really actual, I did some research and it really actually existed. So it piqued my interest, and I had, by that time I was in Colorado, loved to walk and bike and hike and all that fun stuff. Plus the added history of the Camino, plus roots to Spain. I have family roots here. Why not?
Right.
So it was a gratitude walk when I met Tom and Kate. It was 2.5 years of being off chemo. And I don't know if Tom and Kate knew that, maybe they do, and was walking as a gratitude, but it became a spiritual walk, and fell in love with it and was hooked immediately.
So did you go through, what kind of chemo did you go through?
It was a very intense form of chemo. It was 16 weeks instead of most. The doctor recommended I do it in 6 months. And I went through, it was called, it had a name. It was 16 weeks. So it was every single week, but then 4 weeks out of that, I did back-to-back chemos. And it also included, mustard gas. So I was on mustard gas, and they had to come out with the hazmat uniforms and everything. Yeah, it was, and some of the other people who were taking chemo with me were like, whoa, what's going on over there? So there is a name for it. I don't have the name in front of me of the name of the chemotherapy that I went through, but it was an intense form of chemo. The reason I wanted to do it was because it was done quicker.
Gotcha,
So,
okay. And are you cancer-free now?
yes, have been cancer-free for over 10, 15 years. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
really
you.
great to hear.
Thank
Very
you.
great to hear. In thinking about, and we've had the benefit of having Alexander John Shaya. I don't know if you know who he is.
I do.
No,
I do.
you know Alexander John. Well, several of us have heard him at gathering, and we were fortunate last year to have him talk to our chapter. And of course, if you know his work, and many people on this call do, that he talks about the heroine's journey, okay, the hero's journey, and relies on Joseph Campbell as kind of setting the stage. And his book, Returning from the Camino, he takes sort of the four, he's dedicated this to what he calls the journey of quadratos. So I just want to read these very quickly. And if you're familiar with Campbell, you'll really pick up on this. So he says, the first path is facing change, hearing the call, deciding to go, and setting out. The second path is moving through trials and obstacles, meeting physical, emotional, and spiritual obstacles as you walk. The third path is receiving joy and experiencing oneness, sense of deep peace, joy, and or giftedness that arrive usually by surprise somewhere while walking. And the fourth path is maturing in service, returning home to build skills and sharing your gift. So, you know, my question, Tanya, I don't know if you see your journey as a heroine's journey, but when you look back on it, what strikes you most about this the whole experience with the Camino? Starting in 2003, you got the call to where you are now with La Cala. What is it? What surprises you about the heroine's journey that you've had?
I have a hard time with the word heroine's journey. I think I'm just like any other person, and I'm at the point where I wanted to give back because the Camino's given so much to me. So I wanted to give back. So that's why La Cala is in order to give back to the Camino. Also why I volunteered at Albergue. It's good for the soul. It's just good for the soul. I'm not comfortable with the word heroine's journey. Sorry.
Yeah, and I get that. And you know, if you've ever heard any like Medal of Honor winners, when they read their citation and then at the end they'll say the real heroes are the people that didn't come back.
Yeah.
But when you listen to what was said and what they did, in my opinion, it's clearly heroic. They may not see it that way. And I appreciate what you're saying. And I think that's where people have sometimes a problem with it. And if we said personal journey, if we took off the hero part and we said, you know, what is it about any of our personal journeys that, you know, that I can look back at now and see that really surprised me? So I appreciate that. I really do. Because I think a lot of people do have a problem. It calls too much attention to themselves, something along that line. But you walked in 2006, and how did you prepare for that walk?
That walk, I actually did more preparation than I did for any of the other ones. I was working in Colorado, and I was carrying my bag. I would walk to work, which was about 4 miles one way, and I would carry my backpack. And then on my lunch break, I'd go to the local recreation center, and I would walk on the track with my backpack. And then if I didn't walk, I mean, I did that straight for 6 weeks. And if I wasn't walking, I was riding my bicycle. So I probably prepared more for the very first one because I was worried I wasn't going to be able to do it.
Okay. Now, had you met anyone from American Pilgrims at this point, or was this just your research through the internet or wherever?
Yeah, I actually, well, the internet wasn't even, I wasn't, I don't think I had a laptop, and I didn't take my phone with me. I think all I took was a digital camera. John Brierley's guide is what I used. And
Okay.
no, I wasn't aware of the American Pilgrims at that time. Unless Tom and Katie were part of the Pilgrim group, I wasn't aware of the American Pilgrims until I came back to the United States and wanted to do the hospitalero training. So that's how I found out.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's where the connection starts.
That's where the
You
connection-
mentioned John Brierley. Is La Cala in any of his upcoming books? His
Said he-
guides?
Yeah, we've talked a couple times. He actually answers his emails, which surprises me. So yeah, he said he was gonna update it and put me in the next update. So that's been one of those things that you can do while you're waiting around, waiting for patrimony to give building permits.
And explain to everyone what is patrimony? What does that mean?
Is that what I answer?
Yes, where Jessica comes in.
Patrimonio. So basically, well, like any other country, I'm guessing, but in Spain, every autonomic community has different rules for building. And within the community, every little concello, town, or town hall has different ones as well, independent ones. In our case, we are too close to a couple of sites that are protected by Patrimonio, which is a branch of the government, in this case, the Galician branch of it, that protects the sites that are either like very old or culturally valuable, kind of like cultural inheritance of humanity in that way.
Right.
So we just happen to be right in front of a super amazing monastery
The beautiful
from the
monastery.
1700s.
Yeah.
That is completely protected. So everything that is within certain proximity or on the view of, it has to aesthetically be according to certain rules. So every time that you have to or you want to modify anything on the exterior of your house, you have to ask them permission and they have to approve it before you can touch anything.
Okay.
Kind of to preserve the aesthetics of the environment around the
So-
monastery.
So it's the local governing body? Is that what it is, basically?
Governing body, it will be the central governing, central govern, but depending on what area of Spain, they have different rules. Same organization, different rules depending on where you are. If
Okay.
you are in Galicia, if you're in Andalucía, if you're in the community of Madrid.
So it's the Galicias.
So in our case, it's Galicia.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what happens in Castilla and León with Casa Susi, for example, totally different rules,
Yeah.
even knowing that it comes from the same organization from the government.
So Tanya, so you walk in 2006. What surprised you about the Camino? And again, let me ask it, let me drill down a little bit. Let's say in terms of your preparation, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is, again, one of our charges as chapters is to help prepare people and support people when they go on the Camino. So we always like to make sure that whatever we're telling the people is certainly accurate and making sure that they're as prepared as they want to be, depending upon how much knowledge they want to take. So it's very important to us to know when it comes to what surprised you, or what would you have done differently regarding preparation, if any.
Well, I know that a lot of people freak out about how much stuff they have in their backpack. And I would say that it sorts itself out the first week or 10 days. I thought I had to have several outfits to change into, and I got rid of probably half my clothes. I would say the biggest thing is take anything that you take in your backpack, be prepared to part with and never see it again. I got rid of a lot of stuff. I donated or threw it away, or it just wasn't, it's not necessary. It'll sort itself out. Don't worry about it. It'll sort itself out in the first week or 10 days.
Okay. All right.
Don't worry. And anything that you absolutely need, you can buy on the Camino.
Okay. Yeah.
Sure. I'm seeing all the veterans shaking their heads.
Yeah, well, sometimes you think, like, oh man, there's not this store, or, we're thinking in terms of the stores that we're comfortable with. And we have to realize that, Spain is a first world country. We get that. Yes.
There's a decathlon that exists in Portugal and in Spain, and it's so much cheaper and, to me, just as good a quality as anything you find at REI. So if you find one of those in one of the big cities, you're good. You're golden. And
Now,
walking sticks you can buy these here too, and they're a lot cheaper than they are in the United States as well.
are there any other organizations that you can think of that, from the European standpoint or wherever, that are like American Pilgrims in terms of that, we're not proud, we can learn from other people, we can, if there's another organization out there that's doing things very well, there's nothing wrong with us learning from them. So does anybody come to mind in terms of
Well,
some reference that you could give us?
Portuguese has a group, and so does Spain has a friends group. I think Rebecca Scott belongs to that group. The Spanish Friends of the Camino, I think
Okay.
is the name. But there is really, American Pilgrims on the Camino has a really great reputation because they do so much for the Camino by giving the grants to albergues that are in need of them. So it would be fun sometime to do the Spanish, Portuguese, and American Pilgrims conference. Would that be cool?
That would be.
Yeah.
We'll do it in Oia. Hey, we're all staying at your place.
That I can organize. I will let you guys know where to eat, what to do around. But
She is very good social secretary.
Oh, there you go. So also, something I want to get your insight on, and this has to do with the numbers of men and women making the Camino, getting Compostelas. These numbers are coming from the Pilgrim's office and are also on the website. So in 2006, when you walked, according to the numbers, 59% were men and 41% were women. If we fast forward, and 100,000 people walked that year in 2006. Fast forward to 2018, 327,000 people walked. 49.65 were men, 50.35 were women. The first time that there were more women than men. And then in 2019, 347,000, men 48.85, women 51.15, almost a 2.3% jump. So you've been on all sides of this issue. You've walked alone, I guess, in terms of your first Camino and other Caminos. You've seen it from every angle. What is going on, in your opinion, with the numbers of women that are walking the Camino? And the second question is, how can we, at the chapter level, based on your opinion, how can we better support women in making the Camino going forward?
Well, I think there's a group called Camigas that might have, it's a pretty large group. It's an international group, and I'm sure there's ladies on this call that probably are part of it. I think it empowers, well, for one thing, I think the Camino empowers people, but I think also that the Camigas might empower people. That's probably the number one question asked on the Camigas is, can women walk this alone? And I've walked all my Caminos alone. You aren't alone unless you want to be alone. Even the Portuguese, there were parts where I was walking with people. So, and Portuguese is pretty quiet, especially from Lisbon. But there's always people that, I think if a woman feels uncomfortable and she maybe needs somebody to walk with, especially through certain areas, then I think a lot of women need to feel empowered to ask for somebody to walk with them, or maybe if you can see that they're uncomfortable, ask them if they want somebody to walk with. Yeah, I think I would agree. Women tend to walk alone more than men do, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that I see on the Portuguese. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's just something that I think that we need to continue to encourage within our own chapter and provide space for that and support, and however that we can do it. Obviously, something is going right to have these kind of numbers. Now, the numbers did dip in 2020, they dropped, but that's an off year. So we'll see what happens once the Camino gets back up and running, of whether or not those numbers continue to.
I'm honestly surprised to hear that, because when I was walking in 2005 or 2006, I still don't remember what year it was, I felt like there was just as many women as there were men at that time. Maybe the timing, I don't know, but I also feel like it's a lot of feminine energy on the Camino. And I mean that in the most positive sense of the word.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah. Well, it's helpful also for us to have several of our members, our pilgrims who are women that have walked, because as soon as a woman starts asking a question, it's like stage left for me, or, you know, turn it over to someone who knows and can relate, if you will. So I think it's good to keep that in mind as well. Let's talk about Albergue. So as maybe people know or don't know, in 2017, the Albergue at Albergue received a $6,000 grant from American Pilgrims to help with roof renovations. And I understand, Tanya, that were you able to see the before and after?
Yeah.
So what was the, we saw, in fact, I just saw John and Bridget join us, and they're the other couple that volunteered as hospitaleros in Albergue. So there's 4 of us that saw the after. We saw the renovated part when we did it in 2018 and 2019. What was it like upstairs when you were there before the renovation?
It was like a half a story, and I hated going up there to clean because I could barely stand. You can't barely stand up. So it was a lot of crouching and going, and then had eaves that were down. So you were crouching while you were cleaning and sweeping and changing sheets and beds. At the time we were doing sheets. So it was very uncomfortable. It also didn't have a lot of air circulation. It was really warm up there. So the people, that's the last thing you want as the pilgrims after the end of a day, and it was hot, and you go upstairs and there was hardly any windows to open for fresh air. So
they had 2 skylights, is that correct?
Brand new skylights, yeah, which made all the difference in the air circulation. And then they also lifted the roof by, I want to say, I don't know, 10 feet. I'm just guessing. I can actually stand up now, and now cleaning is so much easier and so much more enjoyable.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, that's another connection that they had, and was the fact that they were the grant recipient. And I know that, you know, we're talking now, we're at somewhere 90 projects with about $350,000. That's not including this year. And I believe that this year the grant program is looking at awarding grants of about $49,000.
Awesome.
So,
awesome. They were very appreciative, very grateful, and it looks so much better now.
Yeah, it was a lot easier to actually clean, obviously, when you can stand up and you're not having to bend over.
I don't know what half a story equates to, but it was horrible.
So in planning for La Cala, if we can kind of switch over to La Cala, was there a particular, you've walked a lot of, and you've stayed at a lot of different places. Was there a particular albergue that you had in mind for the design of La Cala?
Well, there's what you have in your head for your dream, and then there's the reality. And this kind of evolved. So this is not, I really loved the albergue in, shoot. It was on the Frances, and it was a stone house, and this lady had converted it into an albergue. It wasn't Tria Castella, but it was in Galicia. Anyway, I had envisioned in my mind a stone house, because most of my favorite albergues were stone houses. Oh, the one in Ribadeiso was nice. I love that one too. That was a beautiful one. I was just envisioned an old Galician traditional stone house, and that's not what happened. So you have to work with what you have, because the location, I think, is more important, because I was looking at houses for 4.5, 5 years, and it's about the location for pilgrims. And I found a place that's only 32 meters from the Camino. So I feel like I really lucked out and was a blessing to and be in the town that I wanted to be in. So I'm going to add stone. That's what we're waiting for on the patrimony side, the permission to add the stone on the outside.
And the tiles on the roof.
And yeah, there's other stuff too.
So did you have a contractor when you found the place? Did you have a contractor that helped you?
Yeah, yes and no. I had asked the contractor the two things. I have a friend who's an architect in Iowa, and he said, find out if the roof is good and find out if the foundation is good, and everything else is fixable. So I asked the contractor those two questions, and unfortunately, the roof is not good. And I found that out this winter. So I'm gonna have to replace the roof too. So we have a new contractor now, yes. And we really like this new contractor, so.
She made it sound like it was so easy.
No, there was a lot more involved, but I don't want to dwell on the negative because there was a lot of headaches there.
She went through a lot, yeah.
Well, the thing that I wonder about, and again, this is kind of dating me a little bit, is when, you know, you see the movie and read the book Under the Tuscan Sun by Francis Mays, and then again, now this is really dating, A Year in Provence. Some people know Peter Mayle. It's Peter Mayle, and it's his story about buying an old stone house in Provence and rehabbing it. And both of these stories really focus a lot about the workers. And in the case of A Year in Provence, he had to kind of trick the workers to get them done by saying that he was going to have a party at the end, and all the wives wanted their husbands to be done with their particular responsibilities, and suddenly they kicked it in gear. So my question is, along those lines, did you have any interaction with the workers or anything with the workers where you had to motivate them, or did you what went on with the workers along the lines of what I just described?
Yeah, the contractor told me it would be 3 or 4 months to get the renovations done. It wasn't done in 3 or 4 months. It was more like a year and maybe even longer. Well, you have to add in the COVID in there too. So that kind of, but yeah, we were constantly having to babysit, making sure. I luckily had an apartment right up the hill. So I stopped in to make sure that they were working. Yeah, to motivate. And there was a contract that was written up that supposedly we had fines if he was late past the 3 or 4 months, which that's why we ended up parting ways, because he owed me about $5,000 worth of late fees, and he was not willing to.
Yes, he didn't end up being a good person.
Yeah, we
weren't happy.
It was okay. We parted ways it was okay. But yeah, it was constantly feeling like you had to, and we talked about a party.
But we did the party once we got rid of him.
Yes.
Right.
Hey,
So,
Mike,
yeah.
we have a couple of questions that have accumulated. Would now be a good time to?
I think that'd be a great time. Why don't we jump in with questions? Sure.
Okay, great. So one of the questions are kind of a statement. It sounds like the patrimony is something like a building permit here in the United States. Would you say it's similar to that?
No, yes and
No.
no.
Okay.
The building permits in the area that Tanya is at right now will come from the city. But you only need those permits in certain cases. Patrimony is kind of above City Hall for us east, because it's kind of like if you deal with UNESCO, you know, protect heritage. So, you know, if it's all unprotected, you do as they say. The City Hall has not say on it either. So what we do, we contact an architect that works in the area and that works with them in areas like this that are all surrounded by a lot of old buildings and churches and monasteries and castles. And they get in touch with them, present a project that is like really big and really extensive and really detailed, with every single item that you're going to add to the house, from the roof to the bottom, every material, every color, and they have
Wow.
to-
They're
Yeah.
very picky. They're very
I
picky.
guess.
Slow, slow.
And very slow. And the reason is because I am only 150 or 200 meters away from the monastery, and there's a lot of historical buildings in my neighborhood too. So we are required by law for anything on the outside of the house to get patrimonies approval. So it's,
Like a historical society, huh?
yeah. Like I'm from Pella, Iowa, and that has a lot to do with, it's very similar. You cannot build anything in Pella, Iowa without a Dutch front, and all my Iowa people will know this.
Mhm.
So it's very similar to that.
That's very helpful. Thank you. The next, we've got two more. Why did you pick Oia Spain on the Portuguese route in particular? Why there?
Well, the Francaise, I think I think they have plenty of places to stay. From what I understand, I haven't walked it since 2005 or 2006, but from what I understand, there's plenty of albergues. So I wanted a different route, but I did fall in love with the Camino Portuguese. I walked it twice. That's how much I liked it. And I fell in love with Oia the first time I walked in 2015. But then I walked it again in 2018 because I wanted to make sure that I still had the same feeling. And I did.
She got that feeling on her stomach.
You
That's
know
she
how
described it.
you know how it is when you walk. I'm sure that other pilgrims here have walked through villages where you just kind of, it tugs at your heartstrings.
You connect.
You connect, yeah. And the people are lovely. I'm so glad that it's worked out.
That's very cool.
Of course, you're talking to her or trying.
Yeah.
She understands that. So,
Doesn't matter that I don't speak any Spanish because they still talk to me. And I
That's
just
awesome.
smile.
And then another, we have two more. So for clarity, were you open before COVID and are you open now?
Well,
she's always open.
I'm always open. If pilgrims walk, I'm always open. But I did open right like in August, I think it was. And so right in the middle of it.
Okay, cool. And then the last one on our list for now is, oh, sorry, one just popped up, is how can anyone volunteer at your albergue?
Just contact me through Facebook or through WhatsApp or email. I'm game for it. I have an extra bedroom upstairs, so it's when my mom is going to be visiting at times of the year, and when she's not here, that is purposely meant for hospitaleros. So
Cool.
I'd love to have some friends visit.
Nice. And then do you have pilgrims walking through your town now?
Not really, no.
No, okay.
I think I've seen one in the last month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So Mike, I'll turn it.
We mentioned this might be a good time, thank you, John, of going and talking about COVID. Obviously, if people are not walking, I mean, what is the Spanish government in your area saying? Are you shut down? Are you in quarantine? When can you get shots? Vaccinations are a big deal here in terms of, the US. I think we're moving at a pretty good pace. I think 25% of our population is now fully vaccinated with both shots. So what's going on where you all are in Spain right now?
I just got a call today, thank goodness, that I have an appointment for my first vaccination. So
On
I'm
Friday.
very excited about that on Friday. So yeah. And we just recently, Galicia is all open right now. But that just recently happened because there were times where the municipalities were closed.
No, quite yet on the 9th.
Oh,
Still,
okay.
We're still closed. That's,
We still have
it's very confusing.
curfews. We have curfews. We have to be home by a certain time.
I'm supposed to be home in 6 minutes.
Oh.
It's limited, but it's almost getting there. I mean, it's little by little, and I think we're getting there.
It's
So
very confusing with the news, you know, it changes almost on a daily basis. I'm guessing that is kind of the same everywhere, depending on the number of cases. Now we are kind of expectant to see what happened with the spring break here. People were moving on vacation, so they are waiting to see if the numbers rise or not, to see if we open to the rest of communities. But it's literally changing every week, pretty much.
we had Easter open up last week, and so we're looking at a little bit of a rise, but it's not as
not too bad,
not as big as we were expecting, because I think a lot because of vaccinations. Right now they say 7% of the population has been vaccinated, and 20% is very slow, but 20% had their first shot. So
Well, Tanya, how are you going to have to change, if anything, regarding, or what do you think the change is going to be as we come out of this in terms of just how you run La Cala? I'm thinking about, like, for example, if you remember from Albergue, they really asked that the backpacks be kept downstairs, right along the wall there, and then you were given a tray to the pilgrims to put their stuff in. And as I understood it, according to Josie, that was sort of the new thing that was going to be coming, that more and more albergues were going to try to keep the backpacks separated in one area. Can you comment on that?
yeah, I'm gonna try and get a locker system, something that the backpacks are gonna go in, because either that or, and I don't want to I'm trying to avoid using extra paper and extra plastic and ruining the whole environment, because to me that defeats the whole purpose of everything. So, because otherwise they're saying you have to put everything in a plastic garbage bag. And I don't want to see using plastic garbage bags for every single, it just seems like it would be killing the environment. So my thought is to get a locker system, or maybe maybe do like we did in Albergue and leave the backpacks on. I have a big long bench by the front door, and maybe we put all the backpacks there. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
How many can you house there? How many pilgrims?
Legally?
I don't care.
Legally 10, but I do have this extra bedroom upstairs, and we can maybe squeeze in 11. Or 12 or 13.
11 couples, 22.
So when will you open during the day? Like, what time do you open the inn?
I think I wrote it down on my business page on Google as 2:30 or 3. I mean, I'm always either here or somewhere around. So if, you know, or call me if I know you're coming in early, call me or text me and how many people have WhatsApp? Does everybody have WhatsApp?
Some people have it, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to ask you, do you have a stamp? Have you developed a stamp?
I do. I have a stamp. I made it up when I was in Iowa.
She had the stamp before she had the Albergue.
Yeah.
You won't send us that through the mail, right? You can't stamp a piece of paper, doesn't count. You have to show up. So where are you, like, in relationship to, if you will, the two albergues on either side of you? Like, how far is the next albergue, whatever it is, southwest, north?
So I'm exactly in the middle between Aguarda and Bayona. Aguarda being on the south, right over the border of Portugal. And I'm exactly in the middle. So I'm like, there's 30 kilometers in between, I think, between Bayona and Aguarda. And I'm exactly in the middle.
Those are driving kilometers. So
Yeah, those are direct. Yeah, I'm sorry. Those are driving kilometers. Yes.
Okay.
Not walking.
More walking.
But more or less.
Okay. Go ahead, John.
Mike, I was going to say we have a couple more questions, if that's okay. If I can jump in. So we've heard that the state of emergency will end on May 9th. Is that your expectation as well? And with that, do you think that's going to result in more pilgrims?
I would like to think so, because Portugal, I think, and Spain are working together to see when they can open. I think the idea is to open up the border between Portugal and Spain at the same time.
Okay.
And that also means it would open up for all the regions in Spain as well.
And for the people flying into Portugal that walk from Portugal to Galicia, because right now the problem that we are having is that a lot of countries cannot fly in.
Okay.
France, I just heard today that France is opening up to US citizens by flights.
With vaccines.
With vaccines, you got to do you got to do the isolation, you got to do the vaccines, you know, and have the test and the passport, the vaccine passport.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, once France opens up, I know that Spain and Portugal will be, and they said May. They didn't give a date, but they said May.
Okay, cool. That's good news. And then, oh, how far is Oia from Porto?
Oh,
3 hours and a half drive. I don't
Okay.
know how many kilometers,
I want to say it's about a week's walk.
Okay,
That's what I would say.
that's good. That's the mileage we like to know, right?
Yeah.
And then, do you anticipate that reservations will be needed at your albergue, or too early to tell at this point?
I think it's too early to tell. For this year or for next, I mean, it depends. I mean, because next year may start picking up. So
Okay.
this year, so far, I only have a reservation for one night. So yeah, this year I don't think it will be a problem. But if you feel more comfortable calling or texting, that's fine too. I have a reservation book. But next year, maybe.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Mike.
Tanya, you had mentioned about the recycling, not wanting to use the trash bags to put the packs in. And something we've been hearing more of on the Camino, and I'd like to see what your thoughts are on this, that the situation with trash, and I'm thinking of, I don't know if you know Karen Kaiser, but she is a person who we heard her at the last gathering at Lake Tahoe, and she actually leads a group that goes and picks up trash. And I've heard this term on somebody's podcast, it might have been Tom Labuzinski's, ditch pigs.
Yeah, the ditch
Pigs.
pigs.
That the people who pick up, so it's like in our chapter, in our Camino 101s, I mean, we don't even talk about this because it would, I think it's so far from our minds that anyone would actually throw trash out as they're walking. But from where you sit, is this an issue? Is it something that we need to be addressing?
I think that Americans have this leave no trace policy, so I think that I don't see it so much on the Camino Portuguese as I'm assuming it's maybe more of a problem on the Frances. I haven't walked the Frances in over 10 years, so I don't know what the situation is. I do know that the ditch pigs did come to the Camino Portuguese last year, I think, or maybe the year before, and they cleaned up. I think it wouldn't hurt. Like I took last summer or the summer before, before the COVID, I was picking up a good garbage bag full of trash each day just on this area that I walk almost every day. Okay. So it can be.
Yeah, and it might be something that we would just, include. And I like that, the leave no trace, because I did talk to a good neighbor that is involved with the Boy Scouts, and I said, do they still teach this leave no trace? He said, oh yeah, that's a basic tenet of camping, that you clean up after yourself. Something else. Go ahead.
I don't know if the leave no trace is something that they use worldwide or internationally, or if that was just an American thing. But if I have room in my backpack or in my pockets, I try to pick up anything that I can pick up.
Gotcha. Okay. And also, I think there's something I say something out there about this notion of maybe the Camino is becoming over commercialized. This aspect of where does comfort fit in terms of, can you still be spiritual and comfortable at the same time? And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that in terms of, in other words, does one have to suffer on the Camino to have a spiritual experience? Can you have a level of comfort? I know that within our group, something that I've seen that as people get older, and especially as people have the resources to do it, some people stay at maybe just a little bit nicer place. Maybe they're going to get up in the middle of the night and, they, for whatever reason, and they don't want to step on somebody. So I guess I wonder what your thoughts are on that, about balancing the comfort level and the spirituality.
I break it up and I do a little bit of both, but I do have to say that as I get older, I appreciate having my own space. And I think with the COVID, I think it's going to be more important for people to want their own space, because I think it's going to be difficult if there's, rooms with 40 beds. And I don't know. I don't know how everybody else feels. Maybe once everybody's vaccinated, it won't be such a big deal. But right now, we're kind of in limbo. And I would say that I appreciate breaking it up, sometimes in albergues, sometimes and I have to say that when I walked the Camino the very first time, I stayed like once every 10 days, I stayed in a private place. So, but now it's more half and half. I think you have to do your own comfort level. And one of the number one rules that I learned on the Camino, you don't judge people. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a story.
Yeah. Amen to that. Yeah. So, I don't know if we have any other questions, John. Go ahead. Jump in there.
So one of the questions that came up here, Tanya and Jessica, is, sorry, where did it go? Yeah, for those of us who have walked the Frances and are thinking about the Portuguese, could you tell us some stories or maybe descriptions that uniquely describe the personality of the Portuguese way? Or maybe just a comparative.
The nice thing about the Camino, well, I think you get this on the Frances too, but it's not as crowded. So, but it's like, if you start in Lisbon, it's like having two Caminos in one. I loved walking the farmlands from Lisbon to Porto. It's mostly farmland and villages and meeting people. A lot of the Portuguese speak English, so that part is easier. The food is a little different. I actually like the food because they serve vegetables more in Portugal than they do here in Spain. I really miss vegetables when I'm walking the Camino. But the people are lovely. But it's not, the Camino isn't as well known in Portugal as it is in Spain. You'll notice a huge difference. Once you cross into Spain, you can see the Camino's better signed. It's people, yeah, everybody knows where the Camino is. But in Portugal, it's still it's in the learning curve. So, but it's just different. It's a different culture, but it's beautiful. I mean, it's just different. And I love walking, by the way, you can walk on the ocean from Porto all the way to Vigo. It's ocean. And I don't know if anybody, growing up in Iowa and Colorado, there's not a lot of ocean there. So it's nice to have the ocean on your left.
Yeah, and Tanya literally lives like 150 meters from the water.
150 meters from the water, so you have beautiful views.
Very cool. So question, Tanya, what keeps you up at night when you think about the Camino, when you think about La Cala? what keeps you up at night in terms of just thinking about your experience and where you're going to go from here?
The COVID keeps me up. The COVID keeps me up. It's nothing like building your dream and then all of a sudden the COVID hits and the renovations and waiting for patrimony and wondering if I'm ever actually really going to have the dream come true, because I feel like I'm really, really close, but I haven't got there yet. So the COVID, waiting for patrimony, feeling like there's, I want to see accomplishment moving forward. That's something about the Camino. You always want to move forward. And I consider this a Camino as well, probably the hardest Camino I've ever done. And I want to be able to see some progress. So the lack of progress keeps me up.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day. It feels like, it's Groundhog Day or Groundhog Year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's easy from us here to say, okay, well, we can set aside the COVID, but we're not trying to run an albergue and an inn and, you know, live upstairs and have a business downstairs. So that's a whole different, that's a lot to set aside, if you will, in your regard. So I can see that.
I'm a big hugger and I love to hug pilgrims, and I'm a little nervous to do that right now, and it's going to be very hard not to hug pilgrims. So
that's something that you very easily see on Tanya. When she has pilgrims, her spirits are lifted.
Yeah,
she's happy. She's
a lot happier.
Glowing, and it's not been glowing for a while now.
Yeah,
you can definitely tell. That is her heart, or what her heart is, definitely.
So how have the people in Oia, how have they accepted you?
I think pleasantly surprised. I think at first they were a little skeptical. I think they were like, who is this person? Who is this American? Why does she leave the United States to come to Spain?
And it's like, why doesn't she have a husband or somebody to come with her? It's like, they would not take the fact that, you know, you can be any age and a woman and take this adventure on your own.
Once I got the dog, I think that they were then they realized that I'm staying. I think they opened up more. They're more conversational.
Well, do they have the typical American stereotypes that we all chew gum, we wear baseball hats, generally speaking, we have good teeth because we have good dental care, and we wear trainers. I'm saying that's the British. We wear gym shoes.
Tennis shoes.
Yeah, gym shoes. So,
and flip-flops if you're from California.
Flip-flops,
flip-flops, yeah.
One of my neighbors said, "Oh, I knew it was you because you had your flip-flops on."
Okay. Yeah.
She goes on hikes around here with the flip-flops.
They're all-terrain flip-flops.
Well, I don't know, and I think unless we have any other questions, I think we're about ready to wrap it up. And you know how Facebook is, Tanya, and I'm kind of new to it. I was looking at your website, your Facebook page, and I thought I saw this quote on here that I want to read, and then I looked today and it's not there. So I'm like, oh my gosh. But anyway, you might recognize it. And it's from the pilgrimage. We must never stop dreaming. Dreams provide nourishment for the soul, just as a meal does for the body. And certainly we appreciate the fact that you have dreamt big and that you've been able to share part of your dream with us this afternoon.
Mike.
And thank you for your time. And it's been wonderful.
Mike.
Yes, go ahead.
Mike, hi, this is Kitty and Tom. Since we walked part of the Camino with Tanya, and it was 2006, Tanya, I'd love to share a little story about Tanya so you get to know her. Maybe.
Absolutely. Jump in there. Please do.
I think all of us who have walked it, and those of you who are going to know that it's the people that you walk with that make the experience as much as the step that you take and the, excuse me, the people that you come in contact with. And we, as Tanya said earlier, were with each other quite a part of the way. We were lucky enough to have been with the wonderful priest, and I can't remember his name, at San Juan de Ortega, that was legendary. And Sherry, do you remember this, Tanya, sharing that meal of his garlic soup in his kitchen in San Juan de Ortega? But it was, Tanya made an impression on everybody that met her. So she is going to be a wonderful hospitalero. And when Tom and I got back, and I'm sure many of you have done this, we were asked to do a lot of presentations in different places. And in fact, some of the people on this call or who have been to the Camino, were in some of our presentations. And as a way to make it more personal, we told the stories of about 5 people that we had met that made an impression on us while we were on the Camino. And of course, not using names or details or anything. And Tanya, I wanted you to know that your story and that you were walking it in gratitude for your recovery from cancer, you were one of those people whose story that we use to kind of capture the essence of the Camino and what it's like in terms of the people that walk it and how their lives intersect with your lives, basically forever. And I just wanted to share that with everybody and also with you. And so it's been 15, almost 15 years since we crossed paths, and here we are doing it again. So you never know, you never know.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Matt?
Wait, so we have a couple more questions, but they were from our local chapter. So we'll get that in email from you, Tanya, if that's okay.
Sure.
Well, Tanya and Jessica, thank you so much for your time. I know it's what is it, 10:15 there? It's getting late, and Jessica, you're past the curfew. So be careful on the way home. So thank you for your time. It's been lovely. We appreciate it, Tanya. And
thank you.
Let's hope our paths will cross again in the future.
Bye,
Thank you so much.
Bye, Colorado. Bye, Iowa.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye from California.
What's up with Tom and Katie?